My boss rejected my idea publicly, took it to Shark Tank, and got $2 million investment last month fast. The clip is already playing when I walk back into the office kitchen, and for half a second my brain doesn't register what I'm seeing because it's so wrong my eyes refuse to accept it. There's a tiny TV bolted up in the corner above the vending machine, the one that's always stuck on news nobody watches, and today it's blasting the theme music to Shark Tank, while two guys from sales stand there laughing into their coffees. Then my boss's face fills the screen, my boss from my old job, the one who used to call me kiddo, even though I'm 32. And he's standing on that glossy stage, holding a product in his hands that I have seen in my own handwriting on my own desk in my own prototype bin. It's the same shape, same stupid little latch, same color placement I fought for because it's accessible for people with low vision. He smiles at the sharks like he's about to propose marriage. The caption under him has his name and a company name I have never heard, and my stomach drops so hard I actually grab the counter with both hands like I'm on a boat. A woman in the kitchen, someone I don't know, glances at me and says, "Oh, you watch this?" And I can't answer because my throat has gone tight and hot like I swallowed a coin. I take one step closer without meaning to, like my body thinks if I get close enough, I can somehow reach into the screen and yank it back. My palms are sweating, and I can feel my pulse in my fingertips against the granite. On the TV, he tells some cute origin story about getting inspired when his wife struggled with something, and I make this small involuntary sound, like a laugh that turns into a choke, because I'm hearing my own story come out of his mouth with different names swapped in. One of the sharks asks him if he has a patent, and he says confidently, "Patent pending," and I taste metal. My eyes sting. My knees feel loose. I fumble for my phone, and my screen is already full of notifications because apparently the universe decided today was the day everyone would learn how to punch me in the face at once. It was last month when I first realized this was happening, when my old coworker Daria texted me at 9:07 p.m. with a single sentence. "Please tell me this isn't what I think it is." Then she sent a photo of her TV, my boss on Shark Tank, holding my idea. I remember exactly where I was. I was sitting on the couch in sweatpants, hair still damp from a shower, eating leftover rice straight out of the container because I couldn't be bothered to plate it. My partner, Liam, was in the kitchen running the dishwasher, and when I saw the photo, my whole body went cold in this weird, slow way, like every capillary decided to retreat. I opened the video link she sent and watched it with my mouth open and my heart doing that frantic flutter that feels like it's trying to escape. By the time the shark started asking questions, I was shaking so hard Liam thought I was having a medical emergency. I couldn't even explain it at first. All I could get out was, "That's mine," over and over, like if I said it enough times it would become legally binding. I need to explain what mine means here because I know how people get about ideas. I know someone's going to say ideas are cheap, or you should have patented it, or welcome to business. I get it. I'm not naive. I'm not talking about a vague concept like a better water bottle. I'm talking about a specific solution with specific design choices, documented development, prototypes, user testing notes, supplier quotes, the whole trail. The kind of thing you build slowly while everyone around you treats it like a cute hobby until it suddenly becomes shiny on TV, and then it's visionary. I used to work at a mid-sized consumer products company. Not tech, not some glamorous startup. Think corporate beige. Think fluorescent lighting that makes everyone look slightly sick. Think innovation posters in the hallway, while the actual culture punishes anything that isn't safe. I was in product development as a designer/analyst hybrid, which basically meant I did a lot of actual work and got very little credit because my boss's whole deal was being the ideas guy. His name is Graham. He's the kind of manager who talks in meetings like he's on a stage, and if someone else says something good, he repeats it 2 minutes later with different words, and people nod like he invented oxygen. The idea started because of my aunt. She's not even an inspirational story type. She's a stubborn woman who runs her own life like a little dictatorship, and I adore her. She also has arthritis and neuropathy in her hands, which means a lot of everyday packaging is basically designed to humiliate her. One day, I visited her and watched her struggle with something so simple. Opening and closing this container she needed to access multiple times a day. She didn't cry about it. She got angry, then embarrassed, then angry again. She told me, "Everything is made for people with perfect hands." That sentence sat in my brain like a splinter. I started sketching a solution at home, not at work, not on company time, on my own iPad, at my kitchen table with my own materials. I'm that person who relaxes by problem solving, which is a character flaw. But anyway, over weeks, I refined it. I built a crude prototype. I showed it to my aunt. I showed it to a couple of friends' parents. I watched what they did without telling them what to do, because that's how you learn what's intuitive and what's not. I iterated. I made the latch bigger. I changed the angle so it could be opened with the heel of a hand instead of pinching. I made sure it could be closed with a downward press rather than squeezing. I took notes like a little nerd. I even had a folder labeled Access Project on my personal drive with date-stamped exports because I'm obsessive. Eventually I thought, maybe this could be something, not just something that helps my aunt, something real. And this is where I made my first mistake. I mentioned it at work. Not as, "I'm giving you this." Not as, "This is company property." More like, "Hey, I've been working on something and it's relevant to our category and maybe there's an opportunity here." I was trying to be collaborative. I was trying to do that corporate thing where you bring value and get recognized. I had this naive belief that if I brought something genuinely good, the company would support it and I'd get a seat at the table. So I asked Graham if I could share an idea in our Monday all hands, the one where he likes to perform. He said yes in that breezy way, like he was granting me a gift. I still remember the meeting. The conference room was too cold. Someone had microwave fish and the smell had drifted in. So it was this weird mix of stale coffee and sadness. I had my prototype in a little padded pouch in my bag, and my hands were sweaty when I took it out. I had a single slide with a few bullet points. The problem, the market, the potential. I practiced not overselling because Graham hated when anyone sounded confident about their own work. When it was my turn, I stood up and said, "I've been exploring a packaging solution designed for accessibility, specifically people with reduced grip strength." I kept it simple. I showed the prototype. I demonstrated the latch. I explained why it mattered. I could see a couple of people leaning forward, interested. For about 30 seconds, I felt hopeful. Then Graham laughed. Not a little chuckle. A full, loud laugh that made other people automatically laugh too. Because that's what happens when the boss signals this is funny. He leaned back in his chair, looked around the table, and said, "This is adorable. This is like Etsy meets occupational therapy." My face went hot so fast it felt like my skin was swelling. I remember gripping the prototype a little too tight and feeling the plastic flex. He kept going. "We're not a charity," he said, waving his hand like he was shooing a fly. "We need products that scale. We need things that sell. Not whatever this is." Someone made a noise that might have been agreement, might have been discomfort. I couldn't tell because my ears were buzzing. I tried to say, "Actually, the market size is significant." And he cut me off with, Sure. I'm sure there's a market for everything. But we're focused on winners." Then he looked at me and said, in front of everyone, "Save it for a weekend craft fair." I sat down so hard my chair squeaked. My throat hurt. My eyes burned, but I refused to cry because crying at work is like bleeding in shark water. The meeting moved on like nothing happened. People avoided looking at me. A couple sent sympathetic Slack messages later. That was harsh. Don't listen to him. But nobody pushed back in the room. Nobody said, "Actually, that's a good idea." Not out loud. Not where it mattered. That night, I went home and cried in the shower because it's the only place I feel allowed to fall apart without performing. Liam held my hand through the curtain and kept saying, "He's an idiot." And I kept saying, "Maybe I'm stupid," because humiliation does that thing where it makes you doubt your own reality. After that, I tried to let it go. I told myself, fine, I'll just keep working on it privately. I won't involve work. Lesson learned. Then, 2 weeks later, Graham asked me to email him the file so he could better understand the concept and maybe revisit it later. He said it casually, like a manager assigning a task. I should have refused. I should have said no. I should have said this was personal work. But I was still stuck in that employee mindset where you think pushing back makes you difficult and difficult people get punished. So I sent him a PDF of the overview. Not everything, Not my full folder, just a slide and a couple of images. He replied with, "Thanks. Good initiative. Good initiative." Like I was a child showing him a drawing. I didn't think about it again until 3 months later when things at work got weird. Graham started being secretive. Meetings suddenly happened without me. A new innovation committee was formed and I wasn't invited. A supplier contact I've been working with asked me, confused, "Are you still on the Latch project?" And when I asked what he meant, he went quiet and said, "Oh, never mind." Then Graham announced he was leaving the company to pursue an entrepreneurial opportunity. He said it in an email blast with all the usual corporate fluff about growth and new horizons. People replied with congratulatory messages like he was brave. HR sent out cupcakes. I remember standing near the cupcakes thinking, "I hate all of you." He didn't say goodbye to me personally. He didn't even look me in the eye the last week. He just vanished. 3 weeks after he left, my access badge stopped working. There were restructures. My role was redundant. They offered me a small severance and a pamphlet about job hunting, like that was going to cover the way I wanted to scream. I asked if there was a performance issue. They said no. I asked why my role. They gave me generic answers that tasted like cardboard. The whole time, I had this itch in my brain. This feeling that something was connected, but I didn't have a shape for it yet. Then Daria texted me that night last month. When I watched the Shark Tank pitch the first time, I didn't even get to the investment part before I started crying. Not delicate tears. The kind where your face scrunches and you sound ugly and you hate yourself for it. Liam muted the TV and took my phone out of my hand because I was gripping it so hard my knuckles were white. "What is it?" He kept asking because he genuinely didn't understand. He works in logistics. His world has rules. Mine had apparently turned into a horror movie. "That's the Latch," I said, pointing at the screen like a crazy person. "That's my Latch. That's my shape. He's using my notes. He's using my words." Liam rewound it, and we listened again. Graham said a sentence that made my stomach turn. "We designed it so anyone can open it without pinching." I had written that exact phrase in an email to myself. Anyone can open it without pinching. It wasn't just the product. It was my language, my framing, my brain. I sat there and did this frantic mental inventory. What did I send him? What did he have access to? What was in my work laptop? What was in my personal drive? I felt sick thinking about how many times I'd plug my iPad into my work computer to charge, like that could somehow make it vulnerable. I started spiraling into paranoia. Liam finally said, "Stop. Breathe. We need to think." The next morning, I called an IP attorney, which felt ridiculous because I've always been the kind of person who thinks lawyers are for rich people and criminals, not regular stressed-out employees. I left a voicemail that sounded like I'd been crying, because I had. When the attorney called me back, she was calm in a way I envied. She asked me questions like, "Did you create the idea on company time? Did you use company resources? Was there an invention assignment clause in your employment contract? Did you have documentation that predated your disclosure? Did you ever share it beyond the company? Did Graham ever put anything in writing?" I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop open, sweating, scrolling through old emails and contracts like I was excavating a crime scene. Here's the miserable truth. Employment contracts are often designed to swallow your creativity whole. Mine had a clause about work product and inventions related to the company's business, even if created off hours. Reading it made me feel like I'd been living in someone else's ownership without noticing. The attorney didn't promise me a dramatic win. She didn't say, "Oh, we'll ruin him." She said, "There are angles. It depends on facts." She explained, in simple terms, that an idea alone is hard to protect, but specific materials, drawings, prototypes, trade secrets can be. Also, if Graham took something that belonged to the company might have a stronger case against him than I did, which is a horrifying thought because it means he might have stolen from both of us, and I might be collateral. "And Shark Tank?" I asked, voice thin. "He went on TV." She paused. "Being on TV doesn't change ownership. It changes visibility. That can help. It can also complicate." I felt like my brain was too small to hold all the implications. "What do I do?" I asked. "First," she said, "we gather everything. Timeline, documentation. We don't contact him emotionally. We contact him strategically, so I became a person I didn't recognize for the next week. I turned into a detective in my own life. I pulled the original sketches from my iPad with metadata showing dates. I found photos of my prototypes on my phone with timestamps. I found a voice memo I'd recorded after visiting my aunt where I literally said, "I'm going to fix this latch problem." I found emails to myself with subject lines like latch angle revision. I found Slack messages with Daria from months ago where I vented about Graham laughing at me, including the exact phrase weekend craft fair. I found the email where Graham asked for the files. I found my reply. I found his good initiative. The worst part was realizing he didn't just steal the product. He stole the moment. He stole the thing I tried to do bravely, that I got punished for, and he turned it into his hero narrative on TV. He got applause for the exact thing he humiliated me for. While I was gathering evidence, people started reaching out. Old coworkers I hadn't spoken to in months messaged me like, "Holy crap, isn't that your idea?" Some sent screenshots of Graham's LinkedIn post where he bragged about years of innovation and bringing accessibility to the mainstream. He tagged the sharks. He tagged the show. He tagged every buzzword like a glitter bomb. One coworker, Noah from compliance, sent me something that made my skin crawl. It was a screenshot of an internal system log showing Graham had accessed my shared drive folder after he publicly rejected the idea. Noah wrote, "I don't know if this helps. I shouldn't be sending this." But I saw it, and I couldn't unsee it. I stared at that screenshot for a long time. It felt like proof and betrayal and danger all at once. Because now Noah was involved, and I didn't want him to get fired for being decent. My lawyer told me to save it, not forward it, not do anything stupid with it. So I saved it like it was radioactive. Then came a question: do we go after Graham directly, or do we go through my old company? The answer turned out to be both carefully. My attorney sent a formal letter to Graham's new company address requesting preservation of documents and outlining potential claims. It was written in that cold legal language that makes your stomach drop because it sounds like consequences. It wasn't a dramatic threat. It was a reality check. Then, separately, we contacted my old employer's legal department with a summary and evidence that suggested Graham had misappropriated materials. I expected them to ignore me. I expected corporate indifference. But I think the phrase Shark Tank did something magical to their attention span because suddenly I got a call back within 24 hours. A man from legal, voice smooth and cautious, said, "We're taking this very seriously." I almost laughed. "Of course you are. It's on TV now." They asked for my documentation. They asked for my timeline. They asked if I still had my work laptop. I didn't. They asked if I'd signed anything at termination. They asked if I'd spoken publicly. They asked if I was planning to speak publicly. "No," I said, and my voice shook anyway. "I want to handle." They told me they would investigate internally. They also told me, in the same breath, that I should not contact current employees or make statements that could harm the company's reputation. So that was nice. They were protecting themselves first, like always. But at least it meant they were moving. For weeks, everything was happening in slow motion and too fast at the same time. Shark Tank had aired the episode. Graham had gotten the investment. People online were praising him for being innovative and mission-driven. Every compliment felt like sandpaper on my skin. And then one afternoon, my phone rang from an unknown number, and when I answered, a woman said, "Hi, is this Maya? I'm calling from the production team." I sat down hard on the edge of my couch. My lawyer had warned me this might happen, but I still didn't believe it until it did. She sounded polite in a way that made me instantly suspicious. She said they'd received information regarding the product's origin and they wanted to clarify details. She emphasized that they take integrity seriously. She used the kind of language people use when they're terrified of legal liability. I told her I had representation and to speak to my attorney. She agreed quickly, too quickly, like she was relieved not to have to handle emotions. Then she hung up. After that call, I felt this sharp fear I didn't expect. What if they bury it? What if nothing happens? What if he keeps the money and the credit, and I just get to live with the knowledge that my work became his success story? I started having these petty fantasies, like showing up at one of his launch events with my original prototype and receipts, like a courtroom drama. Then I'd remember I'm not a viral TikTok revenge plot. I'm a person with bills and anxiety and a desire not to be dragged through a public legal mess. The next development came from my old employer of all places. Their legal guy called me again and said they found evidence Graham had downloaded files from shared drives outside of policy before he left. They wouldn't give me details. They spoke in careful phrases. But the implication was clear. He didn't just walk away with his own ideas. Then he called me. Graham. I stared at his name on my screen like it was a snake. I hadn't saved his number, but the phone still recognized it from old call logs. Liam was sitting next to me. He said, "Don't answer." I answered anyway, because part of me wanted to hear him try to explain his way out of it. Part of me wanted to confirm the reality. Part of me wanted to be hurt so I could stop doubting myself. "Hey," he said, like we were old friends. "Maya. Wow. Long time." My hands were shaking. "Why are you calling me?" I asked. He laughed softly. Straight to business. "I respect that. Listen, I heard you've been saying some things." I actually blinked. "Saying things? To who?" "Legal people," he said vaguely. "Look, I get it. You're upset, but you need to be careful." My jaw clenched so hard it hurt. "You stole my work?" I said, and my voice sounded weirdly calm, like my body had switched into survival mode. He made an offended noise. "Stole? Come on. That's dramatic. Ideas are everywhere." "It's not an idea," I snapped. "It's my design, my prototype, my language. You laughed at me in front of everyone, and now you're on TV pretending it was yours." There was a pause where I could hear him breathe, and then his voice went colder. "You're bitter," he said. "This is why people don't take you seriously. You get emotional." The fact that he used the exact same tone he used in meetings, like I was an annoying subordinate, made something in my chest go tight and hot. "I'm not emotional," I said. "I'm factual." He sighed like I was exhausting. "Listen, the company doesn't own you. You're not involved. If you keep pushing this, you could end up with nothing. You could end up owing fees. Just let it go." I laughed once sharp. "You mean let you have it?" He didn't deny it. He just said, "I'm trying to help you." That was when I knew there was no conversation worth having. "Don't call me again," I said, and I hung up. My whole body was trembling afterward. Liam grabbed my hand, and I realized my nails had bitten into my palm. There were little crescent marks. I was bleeding a little. "Are you okay?" he asked. "No," I said, "but I will be." The week after that, things shifted. My attorney told me the Sharks' investment was contingent on due diligence, meaning it wasn't just a suitcase of money handed over on stage, like TV makes it look. There are contracts, checks, verification, and apparently, someone in that process had started asking uncomfortable questions. I didn't get every detail because legal stuff moves like molasses and everyone talks like they're afraid of adjectives. But here's what I do know. My old company sent Graham a cease and desist and demanded assignment of any IP derived from company materials. Graham tried to argue he developed it independently. They presented evidence he'd accessed files. He panicked. My attorney also filed a claim regarding my original materials, the ones created outside company scope, and alleged misappropriation of my copyrighted drawings and trade secret process. That part is messy because the line between company-related and personal gets blurred when your job overlaps with your skills. But I had enough documentation to show I started before I ever brought it up at work, and I had enough witness testimony about the meeting where he rejected it, and enough email trail showing him requesting the files after humiliating me, that it stopped being a he said, she said. One day, Daria called me, voice low, like she was gossiping about a murder. "You didn't hear this from me," she said, "but Graham came into the office." "What?" I asked. "He came in to meet with legal," she said. "He looked like he hadn't slept in a week. His hands were shaking when he signed in." I sat down slowly. My stomach was doing that anxious flipping again, but underneath it was something else, something like relief. Not joy, just a feeling of reality correcting itself a little. A few days later, I got an email from my old company's legal department. They were offering a settlement arrangement that included acknowledging my contribution, compensating me for my work, and including me in any future licensing structure. They didn't apologize. They didn't admit wrongdoing on their side. They framed it as resolution. But it was more than I expected from corporate land. My lawyer said, "This is significant." I read the email 3 times. The numbers made my head swim. Not quit your job forever, money, but real money. The kind that would erase debt and buy time and cover therapy and maybe fund my next steps. The kind that made me angry all over again because it meant they could have taken me seriously in the first place and chose not to until it hit television. And then the part that made me sit back and stare at the wall, a clause about public acknowledgement. It wouldn't be a dramatic press release. It would be in the product documentation and future marketing materials, and it would legally establish me as the original designer. It wasn't loud, but it was permanent. Graham, apparently, was being forced to step back. Not publicly canceled, not marched off stage, but removed from certain roles and legally restricted from claiming sole origin. The Sharks didn't want a lawsuit attached to their money. The company didn't want an ex-employee running around with their files. Everyone wanted the fire to go out. And in that process, my name was being put back on my work like someone finally returned something stolen. When I signed the settlement, I felt nothing at first. I expected triumph. I expected satisfaction. Instead, I felt empty, like my body had been running on adrenaline for so long it didn't know how to react when the threat shifted. Then later that night, I opened my old Access Project folder and saw my earliest sketch. The messy one with smudged lines where I'd written, in tiny letters, "No pinching." And I started crying. Quietly this time. Not humiliation tears. Grief tears. Because it hit me how much of myself I'd poured into this while being treated like I was ridiculous. Now, back to the present. The reason I'm in this random office kitchen watching the episode replay is because Shark Tank clips circulate forever. People keep discovering it and sending it and tagging it. The internet doesn't care about timelines. It cares about spectacle. And today, apparently, someone in my current job thought it would be funny to put it on. I step closer to the TV, and my coworkers glance at me like they're trying to figure out why I look like I'm about to faint. On the screen, Graham says, "I came up with this because I saw a gap in the market." His smile is shiny and practiced. He looks like a man who believes his own lies. My phone buzzes again. A notification from LinkedIn. Graham H. posted, "Still can't believe this happened," with a clip attached. Under it, dozens of comments. Legend. So inspiring. You deserve it. My fingers go numb around my phone. My chest is tight. There's a heat behind my eyes. Then another notification pops up, an email from my attorney's office with the subject line, "Update, public attribution language approved." I blink. I open it. The email is short. Professional. It says the revised language has been approved and will appear in the product's website footer and packaging insert. Designed by Maya R. My last name in full. It's not a parade. It's not a dramatic announcement. But it's real. It's recorded. It's there. I stare at those words until my vision blurs. Tori, my actual coworker Tori at my new job, not a character, walks in and sees my face. "Hey," she says immediately, voice changing. "Are you okay?" I swallow hard. "That's my old boss," I say, and the sentence tastes bitter. She looks up at the TV, then back at me. "Wait," she says, frowning. "This is the guy you told me about? The one who—" "Yeah," I say. She watches for a few seconds, then says quietly, "That's disgusting." Something in me loosens. Just a little. Because she believes me without making me prove my pain first. I turn off the TV with the remote that always sits on top of the microwave. The screen goes black. The room suddenly feels too quiet, like everyone realizes something heavier was happening than entertainment. One of the sales guys, Dan, I think, laughs awkwardly. "Sorry, I didn't know," he says, like that fixes it. "I know," I say, and my voice is steadier than I feel. "It's fine. It's not fine, but I'm done performing devastation for people who will treat it like gossip." I walk back to my desk, sit down, and open my laptop. My hands are still shaky, but I force them to move. I pull up my current project because I have a job now where my manager doesn't mock me for caring about accessibility. I have coworkers who don't use emotional as a weapon. I have a life that isn't built around earning the respect of people who only hand it out when it benefits them. My phone buzzes again. It's Daria. Are you seeing this? He's reposting the clip like nothing happened. I stare at her text and feel a flash of anger, so sharp it almost makes me smile because it's clean. It's not helpless anger anymore. It's not the kind that collapses inward and makes you doubt your worth. It's anger with bones. Anger that remembers the paperwork. Anger that knows my name is going on the packaging. I type back, let him post. My name's on it now. There's a pause. Then a reply comes. I just got chills. I lean back in my chair and close my eyes for 3 seconds. My heart is still beating fast. My palms are still damp. But under the adrenaline, there's this quiet, stubborn steadiness. He got his moment on TV, but he didn't get to erase me. And I know some people will say, well, you got a settlement, so it worked out. Like money is the same as justice. Like credit is the same as healing. It's not. There's still a bruise in me from that meeting where he laughed and everyone let him. There's still a part of me that flinches before sharing an idea out loud. There's still a voice that says, don't make yourself visible. Visibility makes you a target. But the other voice, the one that built a prototype at a kitchen table because my aunt deserved better, has gotten louder too. The strange part is, I don't even want to watch the rest of the episode anymore. I don't care how dramatic the sharks were, or what jokes they made, or how many times Graham smiled. I already lived the real version, the one without studio lights. The one where a man with authority decided humiliation was management, and I had to rebuild my confidence in secret like it was contraband. I open my email and see a message from a supplier I contacted months ago, before all of this blew up. The subject line says, "Congrats on the attribution." The body is one sentence. About time he got recognized. I sit there for a moment, just breathing. Because last month, when he got that $2 million on stage, I felt like the world had validated the worst lesson. That the loudest person wins, that confidence matters more than truth, that work can be stolen and then celebrated. And maybe that's still partly true. Maybe the world is still unfair in a million small ways. But today, sitting at my desk with my name set to be printed on the thing he tried to make vanish, I feel something else too. Not victory, not revenge, just this quiet correction. I existed in the story, even if he tried to write me out. And the next time I have an idea, because I will, I'm going to protect it, and I'm going to back myself, and I'm not going to mistake someone's laughter for truth ever again.